Sure. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to everyone. Um, it's a pleasure to be be presenting the findings from our coronavirus attitude tracker survey. This is the fourth tracker survey results that we are presenting. The wave one, two, and three was conducted in starting off from March to April. Um, One of the questions that get asked from us is that what is the use of public opinion polling and an attitude tracker in such a times. The world is faced with epidemic situation, and how does data help in that regard? Um, there are four key reasons why we're doing this. One of the reasons is that we are providing the voice to the people in the country. So public opinion polling is considered a crucial part of democracy, and in situations such as the one that we are faced here in Pakistan, but elsewhere in the world, the democracy is also under the lockdown in the sense that people's voice cannot be conveyed by the usual forums that have been created to do so. So parliaments are meeting less. Chambers and associations are available less to the world. So in that time period of the lockdown, phone surveys provide an important window into the lives of the people and how they are thinking about things, but how they are performing their everyday time, and what do they think about the future. So in that sense, the survey methodology provides a crucial voice to the people in the crisis times. The survey is also an important tool in providing policymakers with continuous feedback. So the crisis times brings in the most government response, the NGO response, other policymakers response, and the surveys help provide an impact assessment of some sorts, as well as a regular feedback of information, telling them what is working and what is not working, and where things are essentially needed to be done more. One of the important things about corona is that it is a novel coronavirus, and there are reasons why it's called a novel virus. We don't epidemiologists and policymakers, governments do not know much about the virus, even though it's been 2 or 3 months since it started to spread. We don't know the rates of transmission, the means of transmission are also quite unclear. And to couple it up, the world is in a lockdown. So how is the information flowing from the people to and how is it affecting lives? How big is the spread of the virus? All of this information is also is very crucial to ensure that we are able to inform the public as well as the government about how things are moving. Um, in this presentation, we look at different aspects of the coronavirus, and the we're looking at in the section one, we're looking at the perceptions of threat from corona in Pakistan. In section two, we're looking at opinions of people on corrective measures, for example, the lockdown and how the public perceives such lockdowns. We're looking at popularity or support of the government action vis-a-vis these vis-a-vis these corrective actions. Just a second, sorry. And in the section four, we're looking at the economic impact of corona, and then we're looking at the social impact of corona. So we're looking at how psychologically the Pakistani public has been affected by this. This is in this is. all of this activity is in addition to many other good activities that are happening, and we want to ensure that our surveys and our information feedback from the public is helpful to the policymakers and to the ground workers who are risking their lives. We look the presentation is mainly looking at surveys from Pakistan, but it is also looking at international surveys, as Gallup Pakistan is part of the Gallup International, which has been doing multi-country research on the issue of corona. And the some of the sources that I mentioned in the presentation would compare or benchmark Pakistan vis-a-vis other countries in the world. So if we start off with the first section, how is the Pakistani public perceiving the threat from corona? Uh, the question is important because a lot of public messaging has gone to ensure that that the public is taking this threat seriously. It's not. It's one of those threats that one cannot see really manifesting itself in its entirety, and yet people who are not affected can affect the rest of the population in adverse ways. So we wanted to see how people thought that this was a credible virus and a credible threat to to themselves or their family members. In the wave one that was happening that happened in March, about 61% of people said that they thought they or someone in their household was threatened by the coronavirus. The figure started to grow up till wave two, and then from wave two onwards, which happened somewhere in the early April, in wave three, which happened in end April, and wave four that happened just a few weeks ago, a week or 10 days ago, the number has come down to 60%. The number is high, but it also speaks to the fact that about 38% of people in Pakistan, which accounts for millions of Pakistanis, feel that the threat of corona is not very credible in the sense that it cannot affect them or their families. The number has kind of plateaued now, so it seems that the public messaging campaign needs to adapt itself to make sure that the rest of the uncovered population by the message are convinced. In terms of areas of where people are thinking that the threat is more credible and where people are thinking it is less credible, we see differences in terms of stark differences in terms of males and females, where males tend to be slightly less careful about this, or less they feel they are less threatened, or their families are less threatened. In terms of um, uh, provincial breakdown and age breakdown, we see that, and this has been a consistent trend across waves, is that people with ages above 50 are somehow less concerned about themselves or their household, which is very alarming in the sense that the studies have shown that the coronavirus has the most adverse effect on the older population. Um, in terms of how people perceive the threat that the coronavirus is an exaggerated threat, we see that it's in the beginning, in the wave one, there was a very large number. So even though people are thinking it is a threat, there is also an overlap between them saying that the threat is there, but it is being exaggerated. So 62% in wave one, but now falling down to 49% of people, which is a very high number, and it is it shows that even though the public messaging is working, but then there is a very large number of people who still think that the virus is being exaggerated. We see similar pattern here in terms of males being less. less careful about this. But we also see that in rural areas, people think of this as a more exaggerated threat as opposed to urban areas. It could also be the fact that, I mean, they see far fewer cases or far fewer talk about the fact, and it also perhaps points to the fact that the campaign and the messaging around till now by the government has been more urban centric, so using means and mediums that are more specific to urban areas. Eh, we also look at how efficient the campaign has been in terms of making people do something. So being aware of something is one thing, but to act on that information is another. So we've been tracking how people have been actually acting, and we see that very large numbers of people are now actually doing something to prevent and to ensure the taking the usual precautionary measures. The highest among is washing hands more frequently, but 66% are also saying that they're doing some sort of social distancing. 65% are saying that they're using medical masks, 44% are saying they're using hand sanitizers, and 28% wearing gloves, and 13% are saying that they are permanently self quarantining themselves. The number of people who say that they're doing nothing is 5%, and it's something that has drastically improved over the years. So if you look at the right side of the slide, you see I have not taken any precautionary measure falling from the wave 1 in March to wave 4 in April from 43% to 5%. So not only is there the awareness increasing in some ways, but an action on those awareness messages is also being done. But then we see large variations in following this. So medical masks, for example, are more available in urban areas and less available in rural areas. Social distancing is also happening more in urban areas, but less in rural areas. And so we look here in this slide at the top three sort of safety precautionary measures, and I mean the hand washing is a common between males and females, but there are limited differences. So among males, the use of medical mask does not come in the top three. Is the second one, but for females it's a third one at 58%. So there is some variation between how people are protecting themselves from corona. In terms of the messaging, we tested in particular the ringtone message, which is a very unique way to ensure that the public gets to hear the government's message in a more in a polite way as well as in an effective way. So we asked people if they had listened to the message that gets played whenever you call up someone. There is this Corona message that Corona health message that gets played. So almost 80% say that they have listened to at least some part of the message. 55% say that they have listened to it entirely, and it's a figure that has grown over the waves. We're testing it right now in the wave 5 as well, and the number has increased further. The Yet the 23% of the people are saying that they haven't listened to it, and in that sense, it provides the subsequent provides slides provide which parts of the country, which segments of the society are kind of left out from the information campaign that is being done on the mobile. So we see that it's more so in rural areas that people haven't listened. It's not very different in terms of the gender divide, but there is variation in terms of age. And to sum it up, the never listened category is the highest in the rural areas, in Sindh in particular. Among males, it's slightly more, and 30 to 39 age group, it seems to have not been noticed that well. So when people say they haven't listened to it, does not necessarily mean that they haven't listened to it at all. It is possibly that they have just tuned themselves out of listening to that message, and therefore they don't remember anything about it. So it's also about the attention span that people are able to offer the message. In the section two looks at how the public is perceiving the response to the outbreak that the government has been doing. So we look at the federal government and its performance, and we ask if the people thought the federal government's performance was good in terms of controlling the coronavirus. And we see that to begin with, in wave one, the numbers were really high. So 60% of the Pakistani population, regardless of political affiliation, regional affiliations, were in support of the federal government and its coronavirus initiative. And the number has actually been rising. And between wave one and two, there has been a very large 22% increase. These are very extraordinary numbers in terms of any government support. But this is not without a precedent. Across the world, very similar numbers are emerging. We don't have a slide here, but the Gallup International did a survey across 19 countries fairly recently, and they saw very similar numbers emerging in other countries as well. In polarized countries as well, for example, in the US, the American president's approval rating has increased enormously, despite the fact that this is a contentious political election time period. In our neighboring India, the number here, which is 81, is even 10% higher in India, despite the fact that the Congress party has much lower proportion of votes. The number is also extraordinary for Pakistan in the sense that the ruling PTI government had only 31% vote, and yet it has 81% of the populace support on its initiatives. So it is an extraordinary number, but these are extraordinary situations in which the governments have also increase their visibility, and it's a risk mitigation strategy from the population by supporting the government wholeheartedly and waiting for a unified response from them. Um, we've been tracking how people's perception has been with respect to lockdown. One of the reasons why we want to do this again, and as I said, was to ensure that public's voice is heard. So it's a decision being made about the public, and with Parliament, at least in Pakistan, not being summoned until very recently, all of these actions are happening through executive execution of orders, which does not necessarily involve the will of the people. So we wanted to track how the will of the people was with respect to lockdown, but also wanted to know how desperate people were to open up things, because there is an unfortunate opportunity cost between opening up health and economy. So in this way, we asked if people wanted the lockdown to be extended. And in the earlier ways, we had asked if people supported the lockdown. The support for the lockdown was enormous. So two-thirds of the individuals that we polled in wave two and three, they said that they supported the lockdown. In this particular wave, when we see should the lockdown be extended, we have for the first time a majority who's saying that the lockdown should not be extended. This could essentially also follow from the government's narrative as well. So the Pakistani government, at least at the federal level and at Punjab level, they've been advocating opening up rather than continuing the lockdown. So in crisis times, our global studies show that people follow the government rather than ask the government. So in that sense, it could also be following the government. But it's very well linked to the economic numbers that we present and how the situation has become much desperate, and therefore the support for lockdown is now on a very steep declining curve. Um, in terms of we wanted to check how people were behaving with respect to the Friday prayer ban in the country. So to begin with, the ban was not complete in Pakistan. So the government allowed for the mosques to operate, but for the congregations to be restricted to the administration of the mosque. Because the closing down the mosque is a very, very evocative subject in Pakistan. And the religious lobby, as well as the population, which is very religious, it could have been controversial. So to begin with, we did not have a complete lockdown of the mosques, and the support for the lockdown of the mosques and the Friday prayer is one thing, but how well are people agreeing in terms of their actions and who is attending the Friday prayer regardless. So we've been tracking this result, and in the first time that we tracked in wave two in April, in the number was 52% of males said that they had attended the Friday prayer that just happened. That's, if you look at numbers, that's about 25 million males who are above the age of 18 who are saying that they attended the Friday prayer. And that's a very large number of congregation at one time happening. And considering there are about a million mosques in Pakistan, we're talking about gatherings of as high as 200 people together. Um, the good thing is that it declined to 29% in wave three, but we have signs that suggest that the number is now rising. We are in wave five polling this question again, and considering that the government has also scaled back from its further from its narrative of not closing the mosques, and has said that and SOPs have been developed, and Taraweeh prayers have been allowed, and generally religiosity is on the rise in Ramzan. Many of our polls say people's inclination to pray more significantly increases. So maybe the number has gone back to the wave two numbers where majority of males were reporting to be praying in the mosque. The numbers are interestingly not very different across the country. And in terms of, so there is a regional variation and urban rural variation. The gender is just reporting in terms of whether a male attended a Friday prayer in the mosque or not. It's not about females praying, it's about reporting if the male went to the mosque. In this way, we also wanted to really quantify how well the social distancing part of the campaign was working. So it's one thing that the people agree with it. It's also the other to whether they're acting on it or not. We asked in the past 7 days, for how many days have you stayed at home all day? We haven't went out of the house at all. And the number says that 38% are saying that it's been more than 5 days that they haven't went out or received any visitor or guests. And the less than a day, or I mean, I've done it today. So one third of people are reporting that they are not following the social distancing in terms of remaining within their house. So it's I mean, on the one side it is a good number. Pakistan is I mean, generally Pakistani society does not follow, or the narrative stands that it does not follow orders. And here we have about 38% of people saying that it's been more than 5 days that they haven't went out of their house, or they haven't received a guest. That's a very large number following the government order. And all of this could potentially explain the relatively slower as compared to the world spread of the virus. But this is also showing that there is a lot of room for improvement. If the lockdown and the social distancing part is to be implemented, then these numbers do not suggest a complete success. Um, We also wanted to see if the campaign was successful in terms of conveying to people the real ways through which the coronavirus can actually spread. So we asked, do you think that people who show no symptoms of being sick can spread coronavirus? So in the usual terminology, asymptomatic coronavirus patients can they potentially spread virus? So alarmingly, only 31% of people thought that the asymptomatic are able to spread the virus. 69% thought that asymptomatic are unable to spread the virus. Epidemiology and the virology science tell the exact opposite, which is that the asymptomatic may actually have are not to be even higher. So this is a very alarming number. And I mean, in terms of many of the campaign messages that we've been testing, perhaps this is the largest failure in terms of being of conveying. And as the government thinks on opening up the lockdown, it needs to jack up improvement of such messages because even with the lockdown going away, precautionary measures have to be scaled up even further. So people need to be convinced that they need to be taking precautions further, and this data suggests that people are very ill informed about this and may actually be believing in fake news on that.